Of all of the wonders of the ancient world, perhaps the most intriguing is the Colossus, not because of what it was or who it represented or anything like that, but because it fell. It fell during an earthquake and it was never rebuilt because the Oracle of Delphi said, hey, don't do that, bro. So they didn't do that. That is not what this poem is about. Welcome to Strip Cover Lip, where literature lives. We are here today to discuss a poem that will appear in the poetry discussion playlist here on the channel. The poem itself is The New Colossus. Now, here's what we're going to do. We'll have a reading. I'll give you what the poem means. I will give you an argument that will get you a passing grade because probably you are here for a class. Then I'll get you the argument that will get you an A in that class because the A's always come from the very same argument. And if you are a literature student, you should have already diagnosed this. And if you haven't, I'm just going to unlock everything at the bachelor's level in English literature for you. And then finally, I am going to give you an argument for something that is an interesting interpretation of this poem, but not one that you're going to find in any of your books. Probably not one that's going to get you an A, because, believe it or not, your literature professors do not like you to have your own thoughts. You can argue with me if you would like. Try it. See how far it gets you. That's what I did. That's why I'm talking about poetry on the internet. The New Colossus by Emma Lazarus. Not like the brazen giant of Greek fame, with conquering limbs astride from land to land. Here at our sea-washed sunset gates shall stand a mighty woman with a torch whose flame is the imprisoned lightning, and her name, Mother of Exiles. From her beacon hand glows world-wide welcome. Her mild-eyed command, the air-bridged harbor that twin cities frame. Keep ancient lands your storied pomp, cries she, with silent lips. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuse of your teeming shores. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed, to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. So, surface level, what is this poem? This poem is a comparison between the Colossus, the ancient wonder of the world, and the Statue of Liberty. Now, one step deeper than that. This is not a comparison as much as it is a contrasting between the two. So, you get that very first word there, not. Not like the brazen giant of Greek fame with, here's the important word, conquering limbs. Now, as I understand it, technically this is wrong. The Colossus was erected to celebrate a military victory. That much is true, but it was a defense of the homeland as opposed to a conquering of some other place. And that is... Here's the deep thing here. Still, it was a military victory for which the Colossus was constructed. The Statue of Liberty, however, is not erected to some military gain or triumph or win. It is not for some type of battle, though, I mean, you could very much make the argument with the revolution, etc. But what our poet here, Lazarus, is arguing is that instead of military victory, what this statue is doing, what the American Colossus is doing, is welcoming immigrants. This is what that statue is doing as opposed to celebrating military. Okay, great. Now, if you want, and so that paper will get you a passing grade. If you want an A, feminism. It's always feminism. Now, I will warn you, you have to be careful because there are branches of feminism, or at least branches of feminist. So, if you were writing this paper aiming for the A, and you were hoping to get that 93%, this right here, you want to know about your feminist professor. They're all feminist professors. Emma Lazarus was Jewish. So, on some branches of the modern day feminism tree, being Jewish, writing about the Jewish nature, the Jewish heritage of Emma Lazarus, will get you extra points. On a different branch, it's going to get you a C. That's not my grading. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm just telling you. I had all of those professors. I probably had some of the same professors. But if we're talking about feminism, regardless of the name here, regardless of the heritage here, this is the other name in question. The new Colossus. Now, if I were writing this paper, what I would make that, here's the reason I'm here talking to you on the internet instead of teaching classes. I never wrote the feminist papers. Okay, so maybe don't take this advice from me. But it is an interesting point, I think, nonetheless. Greek, from which we get the word Colossus, is a gendered language. Colossus is a masculine noun. So, what we have here is not just that we're contrasting the Statue of Liberty to the Colossus. What we have here is a woman doing that job regardless of whether or not she's being recognized for it. This is not the Colossa, right? It's the new Colossus. And I tried for 15 minutes to get ChatGPT to give me a gendered interpretation, a female gendered interpretation of Colossus. Apparently, it is impossible, or ChatGPT just won't do it. I tried so hard because I just don't know the way things are gendered in Greek. But an interesting point for a paper here would be to set up the war versus immigration dichotomy and say that it is a masculine ideal to go to war and conquer. It is a masculine ideal to go out there and fight. And it is a feminine ideal to integrate. Right? So the immigration movement would be a feminist movement versus the war movement, the exclusionary movement, a masculine movement. I don't think any of that is particularly interesting, but I bet it gets you the A. Here is something that I want to talk about. The Colossus was not of Colossus. That's a Marvel character. The Colossus was Helios, the sun god. And the sun god is a seer. That's kind of what the sun god was. What I think is ultimately more interesting, though, The sun god, most of the times that you're talking about a sun god, what you're talking about is the god who takes the sun up in the sky and then brings it back down for night. Might sound obvious, right? Okay, fine, whatever. I think it's worth thinking about. I think that a valid interpretation for this poem, an interesting interpretation for this poem, an interesting thing to talk about, think about, chew on with this poem is just that. Helios, the sun god, has a lot of different interpretations depending on the culture, but in Greek, in Grecian religion, mythology, it was the sun god Helios, a seer. But I think it is interesting to interpret the sun god as a god of labor. Think about it. When is the sun the hottest? Well, it's in the summer. When are you doing all the work outside? Well, it's in the summer. What does the sun god do? He hauls the sun up into the sky and then tucks it away back at night. That's a lot of labor. Okay, where are we going with this? Well, we are talking about the new Colossus, if we are willing to accept Helios, the sun god, as a god of labor, as a god of work. Why wouldn't we then have to find some interpretation of the Statue of Liberty as a statue of labor, of work, if we are saying that the two are in some way alike? We are not saying that they are we're not excluding them from being alike, despite the fact that we do open the poem with not like, right? So we are still making the claim that this is the new Colossus, meaning that, right, there's going to be some things that are different. We're not celebrating war with the new Colossus, but there has to be some things that are the same. The Colossus represented Helios. Helios, if we're accepting that as a god of labor, a god of work, we have to find that common ground between Helios and the Colossus, and the new Colossus, the Statue of Liberty. Well, we have that. Because from the Statue of Liberty's mouth, her words themselves, talking to Europe, keep ancient lands your storied pomp, cries she. I don't want your stories. I don't want your circumstance. I don't want your pomp and circumstance. I don't want all of your fanciful BS. That's not labor, baby. These are the fancy stories you tell yourself so that you don't have to work. I don't care about your storied pomp. We're here for labor. We're here to work. Who's going to be doing that work? The opposite of your storied pomp? Well, you're tired. You're poor. Your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, the tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. So why would someone in the old world be tired? They can't sleep. They can't get any good sleep. Why would you not be able to get good sleep? You couldn't wear yourself out. Why would you be poor? Because you were without work. You were without the means the ability to earn. Well, America's got that, baby. Come on over. You want to work, you want to make something of yourself, you want some type of opportunity, we've got it. We have that. Your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, we got lots of space. Lots of space that we're just going to fill with work, with labor, with busting your butt. The wretched refuse. What a terrible term. What a miserable term. But we know what it means. Those who are the great without from your society, those that you have cast off, these are not polite society. Take them away. Oh, we'll take them. We're going to put them in a mine, and they're going to learn to curse an American. We'll get them chewing on some tobacco leaves. But we got something for them. Send these, the homeless, can't afford housing, the tempest-tossed, those of ill fate. Why do we want people, ill-fated people here in the United States? Well, because you get to make your own fate here. Now, one other detail that could go missed here. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. I lift my lamp. Boy, howdy you do, don't you? What do you use the lamp for? For work. So, you light the way to work. I think a pretty good part of what we are talking about here, if we are to give some type of working interpretation of this poem, something that means something as opposed to what we're writing a paper about. This poem, it's about work. It's about labor. Helios labored the sun up into the sky and took it back every day. That earned him being, I guess maybe not immortalized, because he wasn't mortal, and B, the statue didn't last, but for intents and purposes, immortalized in the Colossus. But in the United States, we don't have to have a god to worship work. We have to have no specific god to worship work. We will take any old statue and use it as an excuse to worship labor. Just an interesting twist on the poem. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other literature lovers. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, literature is the only thing I talk about on the channel. Dropping multiple videos every single week. There's poetry every Monday, and as always, I hope to have you back for the next one.